Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Hot Takes and Heaters. This is the MLB-centric portion of the Future Sox world. He is Danny Miller. I am Nick Murawski. We do this live on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. on Twitch on the Future Sox YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and smash the like button, the love button, the notifications. All that good stuff is so much is happening with the Sox pipeline, and we're going to talk a little bit about it in this episode as we're seeing some new faces. But as we record, hey, it's the Crosstown Classic, the Windy City Classic, however you phrase it. Sox in Wrigley, and at this moment, up 5-1 after that rain delay. So we'll touch a little bit on the game. All of the shuffling that's gone on recently with moves that were made, guys sent down. A certain gentleman DFA'd once again, I think for the third time, and Luis Robert Jr. Back. Our Cubs Sox memories, and then Jeff Passan putting out a lot about the trading game here. So, Danny Miller, good to have you once again. What's going on, buddy?
Watching this Cubs Sox game. There were some comments in our tweet earlier about the show tonight, and I said I was hoping that it would be an absolute drubbing of the Cubs. And I don't know if you would call this a drubbing, but getting 5 against Shota Imagana, who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball up until this point this season, I would say is about as close as I could expect to a drubbing for the White Sox. So great start, great fourth inning for the White Sox to start this game off. And I'm enjoying the game thus far. So, but I'm a tired man, dude. And I just figured I would give everybody an update on the doggies if they were listening last week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Both dogs are still pretty distressed. The one that had the vestibular event that she walks around like she's drunk all the time is starting to slowly improve, and the other one that was having the vomiting fits didn't eat for over 5 days until yesterday. We had a vet trip yesterday, and we got her some meds, and she's holding down food as of right now. She ate for the first time late last night, and kind of hoping that there's a full recovery, but we'll see. She's still weak and moving slow, and it's been a handful. So I'm carrying 2 pit mixes up and down stairs all day and all night. They have needs that keep me awake most of the night, and the wife is at work all day, so I'm doing that. So I apologize if I seem a little out of it today. I have not slept much in about a week. So,
well,
it's not kids, but it's like having
absolutely.
It's like having a couple of toddlers that need. I'm preparing 3 different meals for dogs. Like I'm literally cooking for dogs right now. 3 different dogs, 3 different diets. It's wild, man. But
Well, I think a drubbing, a White Sox drubbing of the Cubs will give you some energy. Will give you some of that boost that you need. I wouldn't call right now a drubbing at all, but if we could get double digits, if we could put double digits up on this team, I really want to see the Sox beat the Cubs. I really do. I don't look at the World Series for us this year, we know where this team was going to be this year. We knew kind of what to expect in a way. Didn't realize it was going to be so embarrassing and such a mess, but it is. But I can't stand the Cubs, not necessarily Cub fans, just the Cubs. Okay, I don't have a second team. I don't buy into they're from Chicago, so you should root for them. No, it Sox all the way. That's just how it happened. Now, to each their own. So I want to see them beat the Cubs, and especially the fact that we share a city and obviously get pushed in the corner. And we've covered it. There's a variety of different reasons for sure.
There's just so much history there.
Yeah, there's just a lot to unpack on the whys, and especially when you talk to a fan, Danny, that's from out of town or a transplant, and they want to talk to you about, well, why can't you be both, or what's the issue, or what's going on here? it's like, how much time do you have? Like, because I can go on for forever on real the history of it. But I don't know. Does that sound familiar to you, Danny? Are you somebody that cozies up, when the Cubs are in the playoffs or something and the Sox aren't? Do you kind of pull for them a little bit?
You know what? So that's a complicated question, and I guess I'll explain why. I grew up with a father who was a converted Cubs fan. He was a fan of the White Sox uh, into his, I guess his teens and early 20s, maybe even into his mid 20s. But he wasn't a fan of Jerry Reinsdorf from Jump Street, and he ended up being, I don't know when the conversion happened, but I know that it was, early in that time. And so he became a Cubs fan. And I have pictures of me as like a toddler and into like my 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old days wearing Cubs gear.
Wow. Burn those
Yeah. Like,
pictures. Get those pictures and burn them.
yeah, they're around somewhere. I haven't seen them in years, but I know they're out there. But I more, kind of just started becoming a fan of the White Sox. I already was, to be honest with you. I was doing it on my own. I don't know if it was because of the friends I hung out with, and I had friends that were Cubs fans too. Watching the day games on WGN back in the day in our summers. Uh, so back then I didn't hate on them as much per se. I never really hated on them. I just always chose the White Sox over them. So, going back to 2016 when the Cubs were in the series, my dad being a big Cubs fan, and he was kind of bedridden at the time. He was going
Mm-hmm.
through a lot. Uh, I watched with them, and I was happy for him to finally be able to get that World Series win that he had been waiting his whole life for, and he died, a year or two later.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
about a little over 2 years later. So,
Yeah, I could
but
appreciate that for sure.
I mean, he had been bedridden for long, for years and years. Just a lot of issues. So,
Yeah.
in that sense, and I was happy for my Cub friends to finally feel what we felt in 2005. But to say that I ever really pull for them, I don't know that that's honestly a thing. I pull for some of the fans and the friends that I have, but not so much for the Cubs.
Yeah, I feel that I feel the same way. I've got some friends in my life that I've known for a very long time that are, passionate, diehard Cub fans. And in 2016, I was happy for them that they got to experience that. I feel like every diehard fan, you should be able to see your team win whatever championship that is in whatever league that is. I mean, and I think it's because of what happened in '05 that it's an amazing experience, living and dying with your team and then to see that at the pinnacle. So, but in terms of the team, I mean, I was pulling for Cleveland. I was, but when it happened, I was like, okay, I'm happy for my friends that I have in my life that are Cub fans. But so, I've seen Sox Cubs games in Wrigley. Boy, I've seen a bunch on the South Side. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've been in verbal just melees. I've seen fights. It's gotten messy over the years. 15, 20 years ago, gosh, I was a real hothead. I had some issues, and they came out during those Cubs Sox games. Absolutely. And if there was a rain delay here and they still had alcohol sales, oh my goodness, my friends better have been ready because they were usually the ones helping me get pulled out of different situations. So I got a long history with this stuff. These days, it's nice to just kind of sit back and I don't look at it again like the World Series or anything. Both teams obviously nowhere near where they want to be. So I just want to see some absolute drubbing by the Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a win right at this point right now because after 11 in a row, like this is really kind of just.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about dog days, and it's only the first week of June. You know what I mean? What's up, Clutch? By the way, real quick, I want to just address the chat. Is that baseball tossed? I guess is
Yeah.
the screen name there. There's some liberties taken with the abbreviation, but either way, it says that he posted a view from behind home plate last year of Luis Roberts' homer.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing a video, so I did not know that came from him, but thank you for sharing that with us. Pretty fantastic stuff. But
Was that the
yeah,
home
man.
run that like he kind of quieted the fans after they
Oh
were
yeah,
chirping at him and Wrigley when he kind of spun around? It was that
that
home
is the
run.
one.
That
If
yeah,
we're thinking,
yeah.
yeah, they were making a lot of noise, and he kind of shut the whole thing down. So it's pretty awesome stuff.
So he's back, Danny. He's Luis Robert Jr. back in the lineup. He out there in center, and I just general thoughts. I mean, it's kind of I'm so like I'm so wishy washy on the whole thing. It's like that's great, He makes things more exciting. You get to watch a healthy Luis Robert Jr. play baseball. He's special to watch when everything's going right. I guess you can add it to the list of like crochet and I don't know what else you got really going on right now, but those are the people that you might be coming out to see now with 100 or something games left.
Yeah, definitely good to see him. I would like to, I would hope that in his first game back here, he can contribute in a way that
That would be nice.
makes you
Yeah.
feel like Luis Robert is officially back. But he did some things in his rehab assignment. We saw his first double A at bat was a dinger. His first triple A at bat was a dinger. I wouldn't mind seeing his first, MLB game back because obviously he's had some at bats now in this game and has not hit that dinger. But wouldn't that be something
Yeah.
to be able to see that?
That would be nice. Someone who has Lenyn Sosa, Danny, who's been up for the last week and a half or so when they sent Ramos down for that promotion, and then they brought up Lenyn Sosa, and he had a no doubter.
Oh, absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I have been kind of holding on to Lenyn Sosa for probably longer than I should. Maybe you're the one that can tell me if I should give up on Lenyn Sosa, if it's a more of a him problem, the organization. Is he blocked? Is he hasn't been able to obviously deliver when he's got chances? Has he been given the right chances? For whatever they're looking for, defense,
Now you're asking the
offense.
right questions.
Yeah. So I mean, help me out with this.
So here's my thing. You ask about, should you be giving up on him and or you've been holding on to him for so long. I am one of those people who has been a huge, huge advocate for Lenyn Sosa. I've been on him since he came up. He was a pencil of a kid when he came into the organization. He doesn't even look like the same guy right now. Feels like he's been around forever, but it was because he was so young when he came into the organization. And I think the biggest thing with him, and a lot of Sox fans will say, well, he's had his chances that brought him up. Problem is if you look at his career in the minor leagues, every time he had gotten a promotion in the minor leagues, it takes him anywhere from 80 to like 150 at bats, consistent playing time, 80 to 150 at bats. And then all of a sudden, it's like he flips a switch, he turns it on, and he doesn't look back. And the White Sox have not given him that opportunity because when the times that he has come up, he gets sporadic playing time. He doesn't get an everyday start. If he does get everyday starts, it's only for a week, and then he's back on the bench or back down in the minors. So if we're looking at total number of at bats, yeah, it looks like he's had his chance. But if you look at Lenyn Sosa Jr. in a vacuum, the man and who he's been throughout his career, that has not been the way that it's worked for him. So I am hoping that this time around, bringing him up, they're going to give him a full opportunity. And I think if he gets that opportunity, he might show Sox fans that he is everything he was touted to be from get-go. Now, it's just a matter of
Yeah.
will they handle it that way or not.
That is always the question with the Sox. Where is he best fit? Second base or third base?
Me personally, I'm going to say probably third base. He started out as a shortstop. Has kind of moved all over the field. You know, in the future, maybe you move him over to second base. Because I just think that Ramos is the guy who's probably got a little bit better of a glove at third base. Although sometimes I feel like Ramos's arm isn't exactly the most powerful. So there's plenty of time to kind of figure that out. But I do believe Sosa probably fits in better at second base in the future. Right now, I would keep him at third.
Well, yeah, I think
And I think
that's
that's the
nice
plan,
to,
right?
but Lopez, DeYoung 1 year deals, I believe. I know what Lopez is a 1 year deal. I think DeYoung's a 1 year deal too. They're rentals, so you're going to be looking for. We think shortstop is going to be figured out down the line, but I think second base and third base, we're gonna have to get some answers, and I want to see what we have. Like I want to see, and if that's Lenyn Sosa's opportunity now to show off, give him the opportunity. I mean, I felt the same way about Ramos. What were your initial thoughts when he got sent down, and with the thought maybe that he'll be back sooner rather than later?
That was another one. I mean, he had kind of come up and started out pretty good, but then he kind of went through some struggles. There might have been, he was minor little, bang ups here and there. He had some minor injuries that he was battling. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this. Well, he was given his opportunity, didn't do anything with it. 46 at bats is hardly a real opportunity. I think the biggest problem with a lot of people, I'm not trying to talk crap about White Sox fans, but man, we're so impatient sometimes. We expect guys to come up. This guy's been talked about for so long. If they pay attention to, FutureSox or, prospect, any kind of prospects, like prospects 1500 or any of them, anybody coming up and they're reading scouting reports and they're reading stat lines. We expect guys to just come out the gate. Sox fans want everybody to be Ellie De La Cruz, right? They
Well,
want everybody to come up and just
yeah,
start mashing.
yeah, I got a theory, and I don't think it's not a far stretch. I mean, it's almost an obvious theory. Well, when you don't go after talent, when you don't go after real talent, all of the hope is tied up in the farm. All the hope is tied up in the hype, because you're not going to spend real money at the top of a free agency class. I mean, they've proved it. I mean, and it's not going to happen again, folks, this offseason. It's just not. I mean, it's going to be the same old blueprint. So you're going to get these guys hyped. We hear about them forever, because that's all we are fantasizing about is what's happening in A, double A, triple A. And then when it doesn't pan out immediately, it's like, well, that was, man, that was our big ticket, because there's no other help coming along.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing some comments in the chat here, and I just kind of want to address a couple of them. Baseball Toss says Lopez is a free agent in 26.
Yeah.
And I think he was just commenting on, you were saying it.
Yeah, I wasn't
guys,
sure if it was a 1 year, 2 year, or what.
Yeah,
what
but
they're
I
doing
think
with
that the
him.
main point is that these guys are rentals. Even if it's a 2-year deal, it's a cheap 2-year deal. I could see the White Sox cutting ties with them by next season. If they do keep him around, I don't think their long-term plan is to have him be a starter. You're probably looking at these prospects that are coming up, getting every opportunity, because they do see a lot of these guys as part of the future. And then the other comment I want to address is LA. Here it says
Yeah.
our history of developing prospects is not good at all. And although I won't argue that, I will kind of rebut that a little bit and say I think it's more about recognizing and evaluating talent. If the talent isn't there, if they're not going to develop. The White Sox have kind of taken a lot of high ceiling guys and touted them so much, but a lot of those high ceiling guys also have low floor, and they're not really hitting what we hoped for. I think a lot of them have some issues between the ears. And to say the White Sox have never developed at all in the past, that's just not wrong. Dylan Cease, he didn't draft. We didn't draft him, but we watched him come up through the minor league system and turn into an absolute stud. Luis Robert Jr. when he's healthy, you can't.
But I would say,
can't blame
Danny,
them. Developing hasn't really done anything with injuries,
though,
because when
devil's
he's healthy,
advocate,
is amazing. They develop guys. They just don't develop as many as
when
we'd
you've
like.
got a talent though, like Luis Robert Jr. or even Dylan Cease, how much of it is development? How much of it
Well,
is
that's my point.
just go play? Like we don't have to develop. And I don't know if the Sox could even be credited with developing. It's like you were just a gifted baseball player.
Oh, did I lose you? Nick, are you there? Hey, Trey, how's it going? I think we lost Nick. Or is it me? If you're in the chat, let me know. Can you hear me? Oh, there goes Nick. We're probably getting a restart. Well, anyways, so I guess I'll just
Yeah.
hey, there you are. I was gonna go on without you until you unfroze yourself there.
There's storms all over the place.
Yeah,
There's
connections are
probably
gonna be
some
rough.
some fun connections, but I guess what I was getting at is, I get your point. There has been some development, but with a guy like Luis Robert Jr., I mean, kind of like a stud from the beginning. You just kind of set it and forget it, right?
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the point that I was trying to make is uh, you know, maybe Luis Robert Jr. is a bad example. But let's take the last two draft classes. And I know they're still young. Most of them are still in the minor leagues. All of them basically are still in the minor leagues. But what we're seeing now is we're not seeing those guys that are touted as top tier talent so much in the last two draft classes. But what we're seeing is we're seeing guys that are having really solid rises in the minors. And I think quite a few guys are going to surprise you. They're going to crack the top 100s on a lot of lists coming up here. As far as prospect list goes, and I know prospects are suspects, but the depth that we're seeing that the White Sox have not had before. What is going on here?
Yeah,
Morel
unfortunately,
just hit
the
a
Sox
two-run bomb.
bullpen, as you were going on there, people talk about this. It's the same kind of, you got the lead, and it happened. It's happened quite a bit. Sox have a lead, and forget about it. Once that Sox bullpen gets their hands on the baseball and into the game, it's all over. Talk about lack of development or whatever's going on. I don't know if it's players. I don't know if it's philosophy. I don't know what is happening with the laboratory. It's probably just about the fringe guys that they went after in the offseason and thought they could cobble a bullpen together, but it has been awful.
Some
But
of it is talent, or lack thereof. Some of it is mismanagement of pitchers. We've got a handful of
sure.
pitchers in this bullpen that would be considered specialty pitchers on a lot of teams. And you know what? One of the reasons why I'm on the fire Pedro train now is he mismanages his bullpen horrifically. I'm sorry, it's terrible. These are not guys you can just plug in whenever the hell you want. You've got a handful of guys that are there for a specific reason, and they're just not going to go. And now you've had a day off yesterday. So most of, if not all of your bullpen should be available today. And, case in point, Anderson's the first guy to come out after flexing
Right.
with a 5-1 lead.
Yeah, in a situation,
Sorry,
yeah,
not
where
sorry.
you're desperately needing a win against a team like the Cubs in like kind of read the room, and that's where I think you bring a good point. Like he can only manage the guys that he has, but you could still manage well the guys that you have. So I really fear him getting his hands on some of these younger guys that are coming up, especially if he sticks around next year as our manager to fill out his 3-year contract and he has access to the future. I just think it's going to go horribly wrong. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He's been learning on the fly, trying to, and it hasn't gotten any better.
Well, and the point that a lot of folks will say out there, you listen to the socials, you listen to the so-called experts, the radio guys, they all say, well, yeah, a lot of them will say Pedro's got to go, but then there's that other side where say, what difference does it make? Is this in a season where we were expected to do anything? But as you see, Lenyn Sosa Jr. is back. We've had guys like Ramos come up. We've had, we can go down the list of all the rookies that have come, rookie pitchers, guys making their debut, guys that have only had short cups of coffee before Pedro coming in to play. There's just a ton of guys, and it's going to continue throughout the season. More and more of these young players are going to keep coming up, and I don't want Pedro and his stink anywhere near these guys. I
Yeah,
just don't. you're not setting the table for the future here by keeping him around. I don't care who is out there, if it's Charlie Montoyo, if it's, one of the guys from the minor league system, if it's some interim manager that you pick up off the streets, it doesn't really matter as long as it's somebody who's at least going to put together a lineup that it takes the best of what you have and puts it in the right places and uses the bullpen in the best situations you possibly can. And I don't see a lot of that from Pedro.
Yeah, it's people ask me if I'm surprised that he's still around as manager, and unfortunately, I'm not surprised because I've been a Sox fan long enough to know how they operate. And if you've really paid attention to how all these things went down with Getz and then bringing Pedro in and everything, and Jerry's comments about Getz and now all of this gushing and ass kissing by Pedro in the media to Jerry. I mean, it's gross. I couldn't even finish some articles because I couldn't get through this love fest, this stuff that Pedro is spewing about, and how, again, Jerry wants to win like nobody else. And I'm so fortunate to be around him, and he's a great evaluator and a great baseball man. And
what's the old saying? You can't see the forest through the trees. It's for Pedro. It's more like you can't see the forest through Jerry Reinsdorf's old man ball sack.
Yeah,
he's been swinging.
Trey's got it here in the comments, and I agree. It's really embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
100% is.
That's where it's at. It's pathetic and it's embarrassing, and unfortunately, we have to keep listening to it. And people might say, well, why do we talk about Pedro? Here we go, a new day talking about Pedro again. Well, when the team's hot garbage, okay, and it's the same old stuff, and he keeps opening up his mouth, giving an insight into his thinking. Well, I'm sorry. Like, he's giving you material, and we got to run with it as the continuing manager of the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, if anybody, and I know we have a lot of carryover here from the numerous FutureSox podcasts that we do. A lot of listeners listen to all three. And anybody that listened to Ian and James this week, they know they had Beefloaf on as a guest, and B pretty much said, at this point, if you get rid of him just for the point of we don't have to listen to the dumb things that come out of his mouth anymore, that would make a lot of people happy. You don't really have much to make fans happy right now. If that's one of the few things you can do to make fans happy, and this season really doesn't have any bearing, the wins and losses and what the outcome is, then why not? You should be doing everything you can to make your fans at least feel like you're making moves, because if you look at ticket sales, and you yourself being a former season ticket holder, there's a lot of other people out there like you. And if this team, supposedly can't buy the players they want to play because fans don't show up, as Jerry Reinsdorf would say, what am I?
Fans will get blamed. Fans will absolutely get blamed eventually. When the dust settles.
If that's the case, do something to make the fans happy.
There's a lot that could have been done, in the off season as you prepare for the season, for the next season. You start thinking about promotions and events, and hey, we know we're not going to be very good. We're not going to spend money. This team is going to take definite steps back. How can we make this a better fan experience? Whether that's promotions or different events, bring back Dollar Dog Day. You get creative. Okay, Sox marketing, the same stuff over and over and over. You are no longer leader in the pack of the greatest food in all of baseball and the greatest spectacle in the show. Everybody's doing fireworks. Everybody has great food. Everybody, is trying to find a way to separate themselves. But Sox have kind of stayed consistent. And you're going to be bad. So what are the incentives? I'm hearing it from so many people, Danny. It's just, they're just really frustrated. It feels like the relationship, between fan and team absolutely has been splintered, and the acts of trying to repair it, it's tough to do in season. Well, here we go. Cubs just tied it up here. In the
I didn't think that was going to make it off the bat.
Was it Tanner Banks? in the game. So there you go. It was 5-0 before that rain delay, and the Cubs came back here chipping away a couple big blasts. And,
The funny thing was I was in the yard grilling some stuff before we got on the air here with the wife, and I had the game on, and the Sox were cruising. And as soon as it started raining, I looked at her and I said, we need the rain to stay away, because what's going to happen is we're going to get a rain delay, and they're going to pull Chris Flexen, and it's going to go to the bullpen. And this is exactly what it was going to happen, because the bullpen's not been great. They have been blowing games left and right. Is that another one? No. Okay.
No. Flexen was pretty good too. 5+
He had his
innings?
best stuff of the season.
Three hits. He was mixing up and down in the zone. He looked pretty confident and comfortable. And Sox it felt like they had some momentum. They feel like they were kind of living off of each other there for a few innings, putting that 5-0 lead up. But we've seen it over and over again. So you got a bunch of, up and down, left and right moves before this Cubs game. We talked about Luis Robert Jr. being back. Tommy Pham, the spark plug, maybe. I don't know what that was to really call that on Sunday in Milwaukee. Where it sounded like he just wanted to fight a bunch of people because of that bad send. It seems like he injured his ankle, his leg, in that out by a mile slide collision, whatever you want to call that. Fletcher is hurt. We know about Benintendi. Andrew Vaughn has been kind of in and out with a finger sprain, but he's been back in the lineup. They bring up Duke Ellis, and they DFA Zach Remillard for the third time. Of all that stuff I just spewed at you, where do you want to go? Is there an avenue that you wanted to kind of expand on a little bit?
We could take our time. Well, I mean, I guess I could do the really quick thing here and just talk about Remillard, since you did, because it's going to be a quick conversation. And I kind of saw that coming just because he had been DFA'd twice already. Nobody scooped him then. I don't really think anybody's going to scoop him now. And I think that was pretty much the White Sox thinking was, hey, this is an easy way to open up a 40-man spot.
I see. Gotcha.
And they'll probably reassign him to the Knights, and he'll be ready to come up and get DFA'd again later in the season.
What a life.
Look, you know what? I hate it. I hate it for him because he's a gamer. He's always been a gamer. The guy's got the he really listen, he might not be he's not Mike Trout or Bryce Harper, but the dude plays hard day in and day out. He's a solid dude. Everything I've ever heard about him says he's a great clubhouse guy. But unfortunately he's older than most guys in the minor leagues. That you would hope were going to be regular everyday players, but for this White Sox team, he fills some holes, and he's going to be living, on Uber and Southwest flights for a while. It's just the
living out of a suitcase,
pretty much.
So the Duke Ellis thing is interesting to me because I am, still just kind of a novice with the minor league system. Like you, Ian, James, the experts, I go to you. I've leaned on you for several years. Just help me understand kind of the inner workings. And maybe this particular year may be a little different, but you had Brian Ramos go from AA to the bigs, skipped AAA. Now he's back down in AAA. Pedro called it a promotion because he was never at AAA. The reasoning behind that was absolutely batshit crazy. But Duke Ellis did the same thing, AA to the bigs. Why skip AAA?
Well, one, the Knights are, at least early on in the season, we're not playing all that well. You've got a bunch of guys on the Knights, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about any of these dudes, but you got a bunch of guys on the Knights that are pretty much depth pieces that aren't already on the 40-man. They still have to field a team day in and day out. A lot of the guys on the 40-man, the roster construction, we've talked about it over and over again. At the beginning of the season, roster construction was not great. Chris Getz and company tried to piecemeal a team together here just so that they could get into the, season for the MLB club. So now what's happening is we've got to find ways to shuffle guys around. And the only way to do that is, unfortunately, there's more guys in the 40-man as far as, like infield and one or two outfield position players. They're all in Birmingham. And when you need to make these corresponding moves, unfortunately, that's the only way you got to go unless you're going to DFA the whole team, which, there's a handful of guys on this Major League Ball club I wouldn't mind seeing being DFA'd, like Frank Thomas said last week. These guys start DFAing some guys. The rest of the locker room will hear that very loudly. Unfortunately, it seems like the White Sox are still afraid to pull the trigger on some of these guys. So in that respect, you're going to see moves like we saw with Duke Ellis coming up today. With Benintendi being out and some other guys being dinged up in the outfield, Duke Ellis makes sense in the fact that he's a defensive guru. He's a speed threat everywhere. So he's the type of guy that can come in when you've got a lead. I think, hopefully they do have a lead at some point where he can come in if he's not getting a start. He can pinch run. He can pinch hit. He can, lay down a bunt when you need it, because we know how much the White Sox love to bunt.
This is good news.
Here it is. I knew it.
There it is, buddy. Luis Robert Jr., your guy. You called it, man.
That was a monster.
That was a monster. I mean, deep center field. Presence felt. First game back. Wow.
Love to see it. Too bad we don't have our guy here in the chat sitting behind home plate to post more home plate views of that one.
That was a bomb. This replay.
It was a monster shot.
It is just fun to watch.
I mean, that's about 25 rows back and just to the left field side of the batter's eye out there. I mean, it just goes without saying. It's so obvious, but you got to say it. I mean, he's such a difference maker when he's in the lineup. It changes things. Pitchers have to think a little bit more. I mean, it's the thunder we wanted. We thought we were going to get the Jimenez, the Robert Jr., the Moncada, all that stuff. We've touched on this over the months here. We've got Luis Robert Jr., and it's just when he's not around, it's such a anemic offense. Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's another one of the things when we talked about development earlier. It's not so much that some of these guys didn't develop, because when they're healthy, Eloy Jimenez does some great things. Yohan Moncada has shown us that he can do great things when he's healthy. None of these guys ever stay healthy. None of them seem to be ever fully healthy. We finally saw it out of Luis Robert last year, and what a catalyst he was during some really tough times last year. We saw him do the things that we hoped Luis Robert Jr. was going to do. So now let's talk a little bit about, we talked about that trade stuff earlier.
Yeah. A lot of things going on recently.
It's been said that nobody on the White Sox roster is untouchable at this point. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on what you thought about guys like Crochet and Luis Robert being thrown in that mix now, when we've all kind of thought that was not the possibility. And since I'm bringing up both of those guys, why don't we start with Luis since we're on him? What are your thoughts on Luis Robert Jr. trade at the deadline? Do you think he gets traded? Do you think they get anything in return for him? Do you think he stays there? Like, just give me your full thoughts on that.
I think they listen. I think they really do listen.
By the way,
yeah.
Before you do start, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this up there.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to have a heater.
Just to hear my thoughts?
Good thing. No, for a celebration
of
Luis, the first one all season that was not because of piss poor performance.
Yeah.
I could go through the whole 7 Ps, but we're not going to do that.
A celebratory heater. I love it.
Yes, finally, for once.
Do it. Treat yourself. A few teams have, I think, the prospects to do it. Very few. I mean, Seattle comes to mind. I think there's also some teams that, you also have to have some crazy ownership, some crazy general managers, some people who are willing to wheel and deal, to get nuts, to do something like that. I don't think he goes anywhere. Maybe in the off season, something gets a little bit more heated, but you're talking about a lot of years of control. Now, you got to listen as the White Sox. You have to look at the situation you're in. You're not going to get a high draft pick. You're not going to spend money in the offseason. So you're going to kind of run this thing back that you did in 2016, 2017 is trade as many assets as you can, whatever you can, get as many major league ready arms, I guess, players, bats, whatever.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a
Yeah.
second because now I'm looking up here, and John Brebbia is the next guy out of the bullpen.
Well, there you go.
The
That
guy
was
that's
fun
got
while it
like
lasted.
almost 900 OPS against.
Yeah,
It's in a near 8 ERA in a 1-run ball game against the Cubs.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Just stay tuned here. You might want to get a heater ready for a different reason.
I'm already going.
Yeah. So I think, look, Robert, I think the obviously the biggest question is the health. Like, what team's going to gamble on, like, man, you just can't stay healthy, guy, for, we don't have a track record. We don't have you being able to do this. So it's a team that has maybe rich farm. It's like, if we could capture this for a couple of years and get something out of them, I don't know. People get nuts. People absolutely get nuts, and it doesn't always work out. When the Sox are relevant, are they going to re-sign Luis Robert Jr.? Are they even thinking about that right now in 3-4 years, whatever that is left on the contract specifically? They're not going to re-sign him. If it's the same type of ownership and they're handling it the same way that they always have, which I would assume they are. So you're in a weird limbo, like Robert wants to go play for, a winning team. He wants to go probably get reset. I mean, he'll make his money eventually, and so is he just going to sit around and kind of bide his time in a team that's going to be irrelevant and, lacking in exposure and obviously postseason, all that? That's for him and his agency and with the team to figure out. But I think they're gonna have to hold on to Robert, because you need to get the farm and then some for Robert Jr. Crochet, I would like to see the Sox really invest in pitching purposefully in the future. And I would like to see them do that with Crochet. I'd like them to keep Crochet. I mean, he has been fun to watch. Here's a guy that, 73 innings over 3 years or something heading into the season. Said he wanted to be
like 69 and 2/3.
Sure. I mean, he's in uncharted territory and has been. Wanted to be in the rotation. Said he did. Proved it. I mean, he won the job, and there's been some bumps, and there will continue to be some bumps. It's just how it is as a starting pitcher. Even the great ones, have some clunkers every now and then. You're not always going to have your B+, A- stuff. So he's become a pitcher, not a thrower. He's exciting. He's kind of what Sale was, years ago, and Rodon in 2021, and Cease and so that again.
Wow, what a catch!
Yeah, that helped Brebbia. Sheets, wow,
laying out,
Gold Glove,
going against the grain.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it. We don't see a lot of that from Sheets too often, and you need.
Looks like we solved our right field problems.
Southside stand up.
Yeah. Is John Schrippen on the trading block? I think there's a lot of people that would like to get him out of town.
You and I have advocated for him, give him time to learn and feel his way through it. But I got to be honest with you, he's kind of starting to get on me a little bit.
Sunday was rough. I
just need him to, go ahead and make the exciting call. Don't elaborate too much. The authenticity is the problem with him.
I think he's really unauthentic. Yeah, he's. I mean, I get it, right? You're trying to get something materialized from nothing. Like, the Sox are giving you nothing. It has been a horrible season. And I think he thinks, well, I gotta drum this up. Like, I've got to really hype this. I've got to sell this product. That's what my bosses want me to do. And he comes from kind of like a different background. He's done some baseball, but what did he do? Slam ball. And, so that was what he went with after that Tommy Pham collision in Milwaukee with, we don't care how many L's we have. And,
you could have just stopped, like, say what you got to say about the moment, but he just kept going. And it was like, all right, dude, take it back a notch. Cause like you saw, to jump out of the booth and have Tommy Pham's back
Yeah, that was
in a very unauthentic kind of way. Like he was the guy that was like in the bar fight that's like, yeah, I got your back, bro, with like 12 people in between him and the the real action.
it was that one was kind of tough, and the whole situation, that was a horrible send. Tommy Pham, spoke of it basically, in the post game, and then he kind of was just forced to go. He obviously got injured in that collision slide thing. I mean, Tommy
He'll be back.
Pham,
He's fine.
Tommy Pham going off though on Contreras or the Milwaukee bullpen chirping at him, and Pham taking it really personal and ready to basically box and fight people because he trains for it in the offseason just in case he gets into some more. I mean, he was like shadow boxing in the infield.
His post game interview was fantastic, and I'll tell you what: if there were a handful of Sox fans, most Sox fans were like, "Hey, the Pham effect is real," but there were still a handful of Sox fans that weren't sold on him. I used to see some posts here and there. If they weren't fans of him before that, they're fans of him now because, like, dude, you're ready to like stand in front of the Brewers dugout and take on the entire team by yourself, like. Sox need something like that. Man.
Well, they need a spark,
Yeah.
but talking about trades and stuff, I feel like he's a guy that a team is going to need.
He's definitely he's the one guy we know for sure is going to go somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think he's sticking around. I mean, there's teams like the Braves. There's other organizations that are going to need some of that spark for the playoff stretch, that little bit of that, that moxie, and he's done it before. And he could play some outfield and he can hit, man. He's definitely brought some of that offense to this team. And I like what I've read, some of Merkin's articles that, he's been mentoring some of the younger guys. It was an experience he had when Matt Holliday kind of took him under his wing and helped him out. So he's paying it forward. It's unfortunate that, this is the type of year that the Sox are in where he's going to be gone. But, I guess that was something to talk about on Sunday. Look, Shriffin's got a very difficult job.
He does, absolutely.
Very, very tough job to do this. Again, like, he put himself out there. He wanted to do this, and this was where they went with. I think he's going to get better, but like, we are experiencing in a very tough season, very tough season. We're experiencing also Shriffen learning, which also means it's going to be tough audio. I mean, it always happens. You ever go back, Danny, and listen to some of like your early podcasts? I mean, I've stumbled on cassette tapes of early college radio shows that I've listened over the last couple of years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, man. How did they ever let me on? Even it was a college radio station. How did they let me even have a mic? You just... And we're in that. We have to hear it. You have to hear someone learning. And yeah, Sunday was a little cringy.
Yeah. I just want him to take it back a notch. You don't have to get excited for, every double play like it was the double play that won the World Series. You don't have to, you don't have to rah Tommy Pham from the booth. He can't even hear you, buddy. Like, just take it back a hair. Be genuine. Be yourself. I get that your job is to help pump up the fan base, but you got to read the room, dude. Like, make the exciting call and cut it there. It's the embellishment. It's the continuation beyond that I think most Sox fans are kind of, they're just done with it. It's a bad team. It's a bad season. We're being fed enough BS from the organization. We don't need it to be fed to us from the guy in the booth. And maybe somebody's coaching him up on to do stuff like that, but
it's fake all over. I mean, Pedro's comments about Jerry are fake. Getz's comments are fake, especially from early in the offseason about being competitive in 2024. I mean, everything is artificial. We don't know as Sox fans what to take as truth, what to take as genuine. Everything is hyped up and blown out of proportion to try to get some excitement going, and here's how it happens: get good players and play good baseball, and everything else will kind of take care of itself.
I mean, it pretty much is that simple. I mean, I hate to say it. Somebody, there's folks out there that are going to tell you, oh, it's not that simple. It pretty much is.
Try it. I'd like the Sox to try it. Stop building TV
is,
networks and stadiums. Build a good team. Build a really good team. You've got an owner that
sets a budget, and it's never great. You can go back a couple of years ago and say, well, they were like 8th or 9th or whatever in the league, and they've been top 10 a bunch of times. And early on in the early 2000s and into the late aughts, there was some higher payrolls. But the thing is those higher payrolls were always because of extensive signings in places that didn't really need bigger contracts.
Yeah, how it was allocated.
I want to see the guy. They're so gun shy about being burned by one player who gets a giant contract. You could say what you want about the Manny Machado situation back in 2018 when we were all kind of glued to our radios and TVs about what was going to happen there, and the Sox, final hour getting just demolished at 1 minute to midnight by the Padres on that deal. But it doesn't matter whether it was, we thought we had him and we thought we made a competitive, offer to him or whatever. There are other guys out there. It's pretty much the only time we've ever heard of a real. Oh, I'm sorry. The other one was the pitcher. What's his name? The guy that
Zach Wheeler.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And his wife decided she wanted to be closer to her family. Those are really the only 2 times we've ever heard of monster contracts being offered by the White Sox, and them not working out.
It's the Jerry might really want to win. He might actually be very competitive and wants to win more than anybody, but I always say it, and it's on his terms. I mean, he plays his game. It's like, I'm not willing to, bend. I'm not willing to evolve. This is how I'm going to do it. And I really am competitive this way. I really want to win this way.
Right.
But that's not how it works.
No one player is worth that much money.
Right.
We look at the Bryce Harper contract, 13 years. I get it. That's a long contract from when he got it. And, the back end of that contract might not play out all that well. But if you look at Philly and what they've done, and even in his time where he's missed some time with injuries, I've heard this argument a bunch of times. Well, he was injured and he's missed a bunch of time. But yeah, you look at it, he's still a 5-WAR player in a year where he's injured, and he's still going out and competing for batting titles, and he's getting gold gloves, and the stadium is packed every day.
And you would think that
we can't pay players because fans don't show up in Chicago. They just don't. I can't do that. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
I'm Jerry Reinsdorf, and I'm going to sit on my wallet and let it sit in my sweaty back pocket all day long.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, this is how it's going to go again. I mean, they're going to, speaking of this, all this trade stuff, they are going to bring back prospects. They're going to try to do it like they did before. I just don't see serious money being spent. They're going to collect a bevy of young guys, and we're going to get that hype. We're going to get that hype. Just wait in a couple of years, what's going to happen. And so I don't know. Besides Pham, I think Fetty, obviously, Fetty is put up numbers where a team's going to go after him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gone.
I don't know. I don't know about Kopech. Like, someone might, but this dude just cannot. I don't find any comfort at all bringing him out of the bullpen, especially when there's guys on. I mean, he could be lights out with triple digits, but who's taking a chance on him? What are you going to even get?
Again, the thing with Kopech is he's got to have more than one pitch that works at any given moment. If his fastball, if he's commanding his fastball, and he's got any kind of a secondary pitch. He could be good. The problem is the fastball. They turned him loose. You're in the bullpen now, so go to town, turn loose, or there's no holdback whatsoever. You don't have to go out and throw 97, 98. You can go out and throw 101, 102. Well, that's great, but nobody knows where that 101, 102 is going to go. He misses high constantly because his arm slot changes and his release point changes constantly. If they're not working on that with him every single day, every time he does a side session, a bullpen session, anytime he spends some time with the coaching staff, he's not going to do anything. He's just not going to be the guy. So
you talk about development. That's development. That's the whole Cats lab that I was hearing about, and what role Bannister plays in all of this, but that's what I'm hoping for. Is like, here's a guy that clearly has got some mechanical stuff. There's some mental stuff.
It's the space between his ears that's got him screwed up right now.
But like getting into a repeatable motion that you just trust your stuff and you don't think maybe that's too much for Cats to take on. Maybe that is. But your side sessions and getting extra eyes on, that is where the development is. And that's tough to do in season. I get that, but this should have all been, wheels in motion a while ago.
Guess who's up in the pen right now?
Well, I mean, again, everybody's fresh, as you said, and if you can get him and feel like he can get you out of something with his velocity but with a runner on already.
What I'm looking at right now, though, is we got Jordan Leisure up in the bottom of the 8th. And
who
Michael
I like.
Kopech who's Michael Kopech, who's throwing in the pen, looking like he's going to come in to close it out if the White Sox can get out of this inning with a lead. He probably will come in either way because he hasn't pitched in a few days. At least I would have him in the game. But I think I would have flip-flopped these guys. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about with Pedro, is using guys in the wrong position. Jordan Leisure has been more consistent than Michael Kopech has all season long. Sorry. That's your guy. You're calling him your future closer. Why are we still playing this game? Michael Kopech is not going to find value between now and the end of the trade deadline unless he can find a secondary pitch that works and he can command his fastball.
Yeah.
And we have not seen an inkling of that. We've seen like the one game where everybody was like, oh my God, is Michael Kopech back? But it's one game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one game where he looks absolutely dominant. There's been other games where he's looked good, but not dominant. But really only one outing all year this year where he was absolutely 100% dominant. That level of consistency is not going to work. You want to sell him at the trade deadline, make him a setup man.
Yeah, and those go. Like there's the value in those guys. I mean, everybody's looking to stock, for more pitching. And if you
don't know that. I'm sorry.
If you could showcase him in those roles, I mean, I think your return will be a little bit better.
The only reason I would say, and the only reason I guarantee what they're thinking is right now is that we have to get to the 9th with a lead. And if we bring Michael in now, maybe that doesn't happen. So that's why Jordan Leisure is in the game.
Situations. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Cubs got something going here in the 8th. I got my eye. I got my eye on it. So, I mean, what kind of guys, though, what kind of players are you looking for the Sox to get back? No matter whether they're trading Fetty or Pham or Kopech or who else, Tim Hill, I know whoever else is available. If business is open, what type of player, do you want to see the Sox stock up on?
Well, okay, so if you look at the Sox farm system, there is a ton of pitching, young pitching that's going to come up. And a lot of those guys are starters right now. But there's not going to be room for 10 starters on this White Sox team in the future. So a handful of those guys are going to be converted to bullpen pitchers. So I really, in this upcoming draft
there you go, Danny.
Well, we're not going to get to the 9th without unless the White Sox can put some runs on the board.
Wow, unbelievable.
We're in a tie ball game, so it will not be a safe situation if Michael Kopech comes in the White Sox.
Leisure just gave up a 2-run double, 7-6 Cubs here in the bottom of the 8th.
I'm sorry, they're not tied. Yeah, we're down. So,
yep.
Yeah. Again, bullpen blows up. And I hate to
Just
say
hung
it,
one,
but
just
I feel
middle.
like, yeah, it was a cement mixer. It looked like, 95. What was he throwing there? Was that? It was not a
That
two
just
seamer.
hung right there, and just Sheets had no chance. Gold Glove, Gavin Sheets, no chance. Nobody had a chance on that.
Now he's made a
That
couple
was
of plays out there tonight, but that roped.
clutch, timely message. Clutch, just running
running
into the Cubs when they're hot. Yeah, that was another one of Schriffin's comments.
six straight
Yeah,
series
I think
losses.
it was during the Milwaukee series where Schriffen said, "Man, we're just running into teams when they're hot."
Now you know what? There's some truth to that. Like there was a post put out earlier this week that showed that the White Sox basically have played the toughest schedule in MLB to this point in the season, because what they did was they took away games played against the Sox, but they used all of their opponents' win-loss records for the season, minus the
Okay.
games that those opponents played against the Sox. And the Sox had played against the toughest schedule in baseball so far. So yeah, the Sox have been playing some tough teams.
I mean,
Whatever.
the
That
run
doesn't
diff.
mean that they are not bad.
I
It's
mean,
not just that. It's not that just we're running into these teams and they're at the wrong time. They're bad. They're bad. That
it's a
talent level's not there.
historically bad team. Maybe running into some teams that are starting to play good baseball, but are they starting to play good baseball because it's against the Sox?
You know what? Momentum can be gained in a lot of ways, and playing a bad team is one of them.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
never know.
there you go. I'm sorry. So Sox will have a bunch of starting pitching. So you're looking at other avenues when wheeling and dealing it goes down late next month.
But yeah, I'm hoping to see, first of all, if we're talking about trading, some of the bigger names on this team that's going to get some decent return, you automatically have to get uh somebody who's close to major league ready as the headliner in that deal. If it's not somebody who's almost major league ready in that headliner, you've got to get a top prospect, somewhere in the top 3 of whatever farm system you're dealing with. And then at least somebody who's major league ready or already, have had their cup of coffee and can bridge a gap until some of these young guys come up. We're not, I don't want to hear about these 5-person, returns where, they're going to try to sell us that 4 out of the 5 are going to be, everydayers. Someday. I need the guy who's going to be, maybe a year or 2 away, prospect type guy that's going to be like a super stud.
And
If
then,
we're
and then
trading
that
away
goes back
Crochet or
to,
Robert.
well, yeah, that goes back to like, what talent do the Sox have to really get that type of return?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. If we're talking about the big names like Crochet or Robert, Fetty, I can see Fetty getting a fairly decent return. But the main thing I want to see now is, because we talked about the young pitchers, is we need some position players. And I hate to say it, I want bat first. I need a guy who's a bat first guy. They are obviously struggling again on defense a little bit this year. They're not the best defensive team, even though we were told that was what's going to happen. They have some guys coming up through the system that are decent defenders, but really this team lacks offense badly. The park is built for home run hitters, and the White Sox can't hit home runs in their own park. They're getting out homered by everybody that comes to visit.
It's
So,
ridiculous. Yeah,
if
it
we're looking
absolutely
at
is.
2025 as kind of a bridge year, because some of these young kids are going to continue to come up, and we're not going to be specifically, contenders for anything, but they're expected to make some turns. This is supposed to be a quicker return on a rebuild. You got to have at least 1 or 2 guys that are going to help bridge that gap to the point when, now if we're getting into 26 and 27, where, things are supposed to turn again and be competitive,
Yeah.
you're going to need those guys, because you're not going to bring up a bunch of young kids and let them flounder and not know what it's like to win. We've seen that record played before. It's a broken record. It doesn't work. And the last rebuild fell partially because of that.
Yeah, all eyes will be on on Getz for sure, especially all of the folks that still want to give him a chance, and I get that. They want to see what he can do, stepping out of the shadows of Hahn and Williams, and how he's going to handle this deadline, this offseason. I don't have a lot of confidence in him. In this specific delicate situation, I didn't want somebody that was going to kind of be learning on the fly here. I wanted somebody that kind of has been through it, a veteran, which obviously there would have been a lot of hangups to bring somebody like that into the organization. I don't think Jerry would ever signed off on that. He wants people that are in the organization around him that he can trust, that he knows, all that kind of stuff. So anyway,
loyal to a fault.
Yeah. So I don't know, Danny, I might have to watch the end of this game in private here, because this is I'm not feeling too good about this. It's only a 1-run game, but
we've been on for a little over an hour now, and I think we pretty much said everything that needs to be said. We can talk more about some of the prospects that we expect to come up next week. We can talk about maybe we'll have another week of Lenyn under our belts.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what Duke Ellis does, because he does offer some things. He doesn't have the biggest bat in the world, but I think a lot of fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with his. He's one of the fastest guys I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'd like to see some. I'd like to see what he's got, and keep eyes on Sosa. But thank you so much, everybody jumping in the chat. Watching on FutureSox YouTube channel. Subscribe, pass that along here every Tuesday night at FutureSox and Twitter X. Another fun conversation, Danny. I feel a little bit better, clearing things, and kind of being in agony during this game with you.
It's always therapeutic for sure. Thanks for chatting with me. I do appreciate it. And I know we were a little all over the place tonight, but it tends to happen when we have a game on.
Well, the Sox are all over the place. Yeah. When there's a crosstown and rain delay and a back and forth, it happens. So until next time, hey, it's Danny Miller at Danny Miller FS on Twitter X, Nick Murawski at Nick_GGTB. We'll catch you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. and subscribe to the FutureSox YouTube channel. So much stuff going on with all these youngsters down on the farm. Hey, until next time, go Sox.